please put your hands together as we extend a very warm welcome to them right here on stage. And we can also flash their names on the screen up, please. May I request you to please extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Vikas Chawla, Managing Director, Compass Group India. Thank you so very much for being here. May I present to you Mr. Rakesh Tripathi, Chief Executive Officer, Tenon FM. Let's hear a round of applause. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Colonel Shubhodoy Mukherjee, Chief Executive Officer, Mumbai Metro 1. Thank you, sir, for being here. Let me also present to you Mr. Hemant Sethi, Managing Director, British Safety Council India. A round of applause as he steps forward. May I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Makarand Kulkarni, Country Head, IFMS, Reliance Retail. And moderating this very interesting session is going to be Mr. Jasdeep Singh, Chief Operating Officer, Quess Integrated Facility Management Services. Thank you so very much, sir, for your presence. You're welcome to take the center of the panel right here or either of the sides for the ease of the segment. All right, a round of applause right here. The final 10 minutes are dedicated to you, our audience. So please make sure you have some interesting questions lined up for our panel right here. And let's hear it up for them once again, please. Thank you. All yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks to ET Edge and Economic Times, basically the Times Group, and a very warm welcome to you once again on behalf of, ET, on behalf of Times Group, and all the panelists who are there. They are all industry leaders, and I'm sure that there is enough and more sitting out there as spectators. So what do you think, the topic, I'll come to the topic very soon. What is the purpose? What is the primary role of facility management? I think whether it is public or private, whether it is in-house or whether it is outsourced, I think the primary role of a facility manager or facility management company or facility services company is to support the business activities, core business activities, and to help provide an environment which is very conducive and enabling for the customer business to achieve the strategic goals. I think that is what our purpose is. Now, today's panel discussion is very apt, if I look at it, and I would say that in my experience of working on both client side and then navigating through the facility management industry on the service side, supplier side, in a model which is a managed model, working with JLL, and then on the other side, which is a self-delivery side, working with companies like ISS, now Quess, leading G4S facility services. I think that taking the view, both sides of the tables, and navigating through both the managed as well as self-delivery models, I think I have realized one thing, that where we lack as a country, and I've seen other countries when you would compare with Europe or how facility managers are positioned globally. One big difference is that we are, and I think there are a lot of customers who are sitting here, and a lot of, from the supplier side, a lot of us sitting here, would agree that the kind of approach in our country is that the seriousness towards the SME is not there. We are not getting our due of being the SMEs. And somewhere the responsibility is also it lies with us. Because when we are taken as subject matter, so my request is that when we are in any meetings, the engagement levels we have with the CXOs, we should try and get time with the CXOs on the customer side to make them understand that, what as a subject matter I need to say, where we are, few things which are not there up in the RFP or a tender where it should be. I think the behavioral change, another thing which we spoke about, and Ashish was there, and somebody mentioned, asked a question. Yes, the behaviors will change, but we are the custodians, we are the torch bearers. So when we engage, we should talk like a subject matter, and we should also make the customer conscious of what is not there, which should be. So today's panel discussion topic, the C-suite view, becoming leadership powerful ally to the customer, and FM's importance in achieving organizations' strategic goals. I'm repeating it again, strategic goals. The panel here, I think I was just going through the profiles. We have about more than 175 years of work experience sitting here on the stage, which is a big thing, between 6 people, 175 years of experience. Great. So I would move on with my first question, and we will keep it very interactive, and we will try and find some time towards the end of the panel discussion if there is any question or there are questions from the audience. And I would, or the panelists would choose one question, and we will try and answer that, depending on what is the luxury of time with us when we end. So my first question is to Makarand. How can FM function demonstrate its business values across the customer enterprise? If you can just elaborate that.
See, thank you for putting me on the first on the line. I'll take it from where Manish Monish Kumar has left. If you know, he's covered the whole aspect of our industry. Thanks, Monish, for setting the tone for us. One of the important aspects of the FM or the as the head, you are in charge of that. There are 3-4 important aspects. One was the as probably you are a cost-driven department, so you becomes a more focus on the cost side of it. So you become a cost as your cost driven. You are not profit making, or you are not adding what do you call top line. You become a cost department. It's become very important to you become focused on the cost side of it. Then it becomes the second aspect of it is the after the cost, it becomes the safety, sustainability. One of the important aspect of the as an individual was driving that. Third becomes the how you becomes the effective effective implementation. Employee well-being is also one of the important aspect in that. And the fourth is that how you make it major and more measurable and more what do you call effective to measure and become more decision-making capabilities with measuring and monitoring. Measuring and monitoring becomes more important aspect into that. So when which is one of the important wherein we now to get there, we are using a lot of IoTical decisions and analysis. We do go ahead and use that to make it more effective decision-making kind of scenario. That's more, I think, nutshell, I feel this is the important aspect into the overall lifestyle of this.
Thanks, Makarand. Just a curious ask, since you are on the other side of the table, how many, what is your setup? How many stores you have across the country from
We
Reliance
have around, published is around 18,500 stores.
Wow.
With that number of supplying sites. So as an individual, I take care of all the business stores, especially from 100 square feet, 200 square feet to large as a mall sites. We have around 35 malls properties. We have supplying sites of nearly each site, they're ranging from 5,000 to 5 lakh square feet. So there are a few fully automated, there are semi-automated, there are more reverse. So all this, with that I have various businesses. One is each like your grocery business, which is every store's nook and corner. We have apparel business. Then we have one of the brands, top brands which are there, which are operating out of it. And then we have e-com business also. So we as an individual, I take care of all these aspects of the businesses. Not me as per se, but my team. And one of the important in this field is my service partners, which is more important for me because ultimately I may be the a strategizer, but my service partners give me the output. That's
Yeah,
the more
thanks,
important.
Makarand. The point is that, what I wanted to come on is that you play a large role as a customer. That we were talking about putting money on the table, whether it should come from the supplier side or customer should also come ahead and put it. I think that it will make a lot of difference. The person who invests will always carry something in his heart that, I have put in money. For example, what Ashish was saying, if he buys a phone, okay, and somebody else picks it up for usage, Ashish will be worried. He said, my phone, man, how will he use it? So I think if money is put on table by customers also, it will make a lot of a difference. They will worry about the outcomes. They will actually come forward and they will, they will be, that will create an environment which is conducive. And then, that is where the behavioral change and a lot of other things will come. So thanks, Makarand. I think you were spot on when you answered it. My next question is to a gentleman, who I think busy life in Mumbai and what role metro plays in our life. So I go to Colonel Shubhodoy Mukherjee. Colonel Mukherjee, is managing facility compliance strategic in nature? If it is, then what do you say, how?
Hello. Uh, Thank you, Jasdeep. The question is strategic by nature, that I can assure you. So, if you are running a system which is supposedly a lifeline of Mumbai carrying 4.5 lakh passengers every day from one end to another, and you have to keep the system running for 19.5 hours every day, you have to be spot on. When you design the system, you have to integrate the entire concept of facility management absolutely in the core. Let me give an example. We have a our fire, control systems, fire monitoring and fire control system prevention systems. Now, if the fire prevention or control system gives a false alarm, the entire station, any of our station, would go into a fire mode. So all the gates will open up and it will create a commotion in the 9 years running. We never had this. We never had such a scare. This is because while designing, while even planning for it, we had integrated the best management solution for the same. And this is not lip service, but actually your facility management partners who are doing your, from housekeeping to the most serious ones like, or the more severe ones like the maintenance of the lifts and the escalators, you have to treat them as partners. The moment you treat them as partners, the work per se or that entire, concept becomes strategic because you will have to involve them in every decision that you make. What's strategy about? That you run them as joint on the hips in your operations, integrate them in the operations. So, if I were to say that it is strategic, but the problem comes up when we do not, think of it as how integral it remains in our day-to-day operations. For instance, there was an aspect of building design which we did not, think of, and we created a, massive structure in our control center. It's about 28 feet high. We wanted it to look very nice and all that. And all the wires for the control center run, on the floor. And we have a false flooring on it. Now, the cleaning of that thing became such a big problem. We hadn't thought about it. So when we went around for the other metro networks, we said that look is good, but we need to be practical. Because you can't mount a scaffolding on that false roof. Every time we have to clean up, imagine we have to remove the false roof, remove those wires, and then erect a scaffolding. And the downtime is huge, and you cannot afford downtime. The point about the whole operations running smoothly is that you cannot afford any forced downtime. And for that, your facility management, right from every aspect of it, needs to be completely integrated in your operations. You might outsource it to your partners, your delivery partners, but you need to keep them with you constantly for everyday planning, and that's how I look at it. A point about one of the most things that's said, which is cleanliness. Believe you me, 2014 we were starting the metro, and one of the USP or the business virtue, I would say, we thought and was that we will keep the premises clean. We will give our commuters an experience which is different from what they've been used to in the railways or in the buses. So the first time, we had hired the cleaning the services partner even before we had started operations, and they were integrated at the time when we were, sort of going through the motions of trial runs, etc. As a result of which, today, I was telling one of my colleagues here that one of the commuters caught hold of another commuter and brought him to the security saying that this man was spitting. This is a behavioral change. People themselves understand that this is my property. It's clean. I need to keep it clean. If anybody soils it, I'm going to be sort of affected. Now, that's a very major change. I was so happy to learn that. So yes, it is strategic because it prompts behavioral changes in people. It is strategic because it's integrated in your operations.
Thanks, Colonel Mukherjee. I think being compliant is a good thing, and being compliant to the KPIs, being compliant to the regulatory and legal, norms is another thing, right? So which is where we lead great teams, right? And you spoke about treating the supplier side as partners, which is very good, right? And it is like when you do that, you are empowering them more, and then these are the guys who are going ahead and then delivering the excellent services. Talking on excellence, I think FM leaders and their teams' role in attaining, and maintaining excellence under the support of a corporate and business unit continuous improvement approach. It's a continuous improvement approach. So my ask to Rakesh that, what are his feelings on this part?
Thank you, Jess. I'll keep a perspective which is meant for all of us. In fact, it's mentioned FM leaders and team. So when I say FM leaders and team, it's the fraternity which is here and it's spread all over. And the most important thing is, if you see since morning when Ashish came, and then Munish came, and just now Jasdeep also mentioned, few words are very common. They started with behavioral. One very important element for all of us as a fraternity, as FM leaders, is think of a behavioral change. Then it came, Jasdeep just mentioned, strategic goal. Look at that, which is very important. So all of us should start thinking on the strategic goals. What exactly is it? So behavioral strategic goal, and interesting word being used is spot on. So what is a spot on? Again, it's actually is the output. So what exactly is required as a perspective for the corporates, for all of us as a FM leaders and the team, is the output. That's the most important thing. Let's move out from the word of a housekeeping and all those things. Everybody talks about that. Let's talk about another word which is like a jargon today, and it's mentioned all over if you see, is integrated. So it's like an integrated approach of all the parameters, all the aspects. So the FM leaders and their team members should start imbibing this thing and talking collectively on all the aspects, all the integration, and that's what a service provider like us, whether it's Tenon, whether it's Compass, whether it's Quess, they start talking in these terms to the customer. And when we start talking to these terms to the customer, I believe the type of money they are talking about from the customers to put on the table, they'll also start thinking on those lines. So that's it's required rather than talking into bits and pieces. So this is a very, very important job of a service provider. I'll just give you very small examples. One or two examples, recent ones. We have a customer. It's a pan-India big movie theaters. They own a movie theaters, big brand. And recently a movie came in Tamil Nadu, Chennai, was Rajnikant's movie Jailer. So you can imagine, Jailer has 24 hours shows. There cannot be break in Jailer. Everybody is running and 6 o'clock, people are in the queue and people rush inside there. So we are serving them. When we have to serve them, you can imagine you have a time limit of not even 5 minutes because these people rush inside. It's a Rajnikant movie. You can't help it. They're rushing. In that 5 minutes, you have to create that efficiency to clean everything, ensure that the director cut or the gold section of whatever section the customer has to be absolutely. That's what the efficiency. That efficiency is not termed as housekeeping. That efficiency is termed as integrated approach. There's so many things goes into that particular thing. Another small example, automobile giant, we do a paint shop. Paint shop, very simple. Again, it's cleaning, but it's not housekeeping. It's the integrated scope of a cleaning of a paint shop, which requires a minute and a uptime. Every shift when it moves, even a small delay amounts to a huge loss to the customer. And that's what we have to look at. So just look at that output, output, output.
Thanks, Rakesh. I think very good perspectives which you have shared, right? And I'm sure that there would be many views on this in the audience as well. So quickly, in the benefit of time, I am moving to my friend sitting on my left, Hemant, part of British Safety Council, he leads them. How can we strategically make a difference when it comes to demonstrating safety at the customer premise is what I'm going to ask you, Hemant.
Thanks, Jasdeep. So I think I'll just go back to the grassroots of safety. It's actually quite familiar for all of you. At the fundamental sort of core of it, it's conditions and behaviors. Now, conditions are sort of, your expertise, and that's what you excel in providing. And what's the customer proposition that you're delivering? I think we touched upon it, customer experience. Comes with hygiene factors, where there's an expectation around safety, and what I think Manish was speaking about in the previous session, well-being. So the world of safety has evolved today to a world of well-being, where you can't have well-being without safety being catered to as a prerequisite. Now, anything around sort of building a strategy around safety or well-being has to be looked at from 3 different dimensions. So it's got to be first from a compliance or ethics standpoint. The second is from a business standpoint. And probably the most important from a people, humanitarian, sort of a people-centric perspective, a moral responsibility. So once we look at it from each of these and build within these, you're going to be adding value to your customer. And finally, any strategy is incomplete unless you can measure it. And you can create that clear visibility about how are you performing, how are you continually improving, and demonstrate that to your stakeholders. So I think all of this is how you can actually look at building a strategy.
Yeah, thanks, Hemant. I think it was good. Colonel Mukherjee, your take on safety, because you manage Metro, how important it is, and just want to know your opinion quickly. Maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute.
Well, it's everything. A mother sends a child to school, he comes on a metro, and the mother expects in her heart that the child will travel and come back safe. The 4.5 lakh passengers that we carry, it's our moral responsibility. It's absolutely on us to keep them safe. And safety, like he brought out, has a vast connotation in a metro system. You know, right from the time we ensure, that the escalators are all marked, because some old people, they try and take the escalators, they misjudge. So we have people who guide these, if they understand that there's a old person and he might have a problem on an escalator, he will guide him to a lift. So it's built into our system to the extent that our safety induction training of every person has to go through an induction training of safety. So if you ask me, our life depends on it.
Yeah,
Every
I think
business depends on it.
I think you're right. And when we talk about safety, safety compromised, then the cost of it is a life which is compromised. Okay, so that is the importance what safety has. And when we keep that in mind, I think we need to, wherever we are today, whether we are sitting here in a hotel doing this great event, or we are in our own offices or customer sites, or we are in public space, I think this is something which is very important, and we all play a very important role in this. So thanks, Colonel Mukherjee. With this, I finally move to my friend Vikas. Vikas, you manage a large business. My question to you is, how effective FM strategy, creates, or how effective FM strategy creates best outcomes for a customer. And if you have to call it out, what is it?
Thanks, Jasdeep. In a world which is increasingly more uncertain, more and more volatile, I think the best bastion that any business has is its people. So great people make businesses tick, make businesses grow, and sometimes can actually create magic happen as well. I think a good FM player and a good partner can make that difference in terms of being able to attract great people. I'll give you an example from my life recently. Most of us here work in corporates. I was an entrepreneur for a bit. And, we were going out and trying to hire people when we were, barely off the ground or not even off the ground. So I didn't have a good workplace. And I can tell you it was so incredibly difficult to be able to go out and hire people, let alone good people. So the first 5 people in the company were hired that way. And then, very early on, we chose to invest in a great workplace. We were barely in the market. COVID was on the door. And we did that. Transformational experience. So in some senses, it's mission critical for a business to be able to have a great workplace. So for us, it's made a huge difference. We hired in great people in quick succession, which really helped our business. So I think that's one of the more critical things from a business outcome perspective that a facility manager delivers. I actually think that we should not look at FM just in terms of managing the facilities per se. I think if you have a great food program, that helps employees as well. Day in and day out, when I visit client sites, I see happy smiles on the faces of people who are, who are basically consuming our food. And that makes a huge difference as well. A lot of times, and it happened yesterday, we were at a client site and I said, I would come into office just for this. So it also helps to be able to attract people in to offices. A strategic FM player can help in multiple ways to be able to impact the business. Some of it is about attracting good people. They can also be partners in the sustainability agenda. Anything that's important to a business, an FN can help in.
Thanks, Vikas. It was a good perspective and view which you shared. Sometime back we spoke on facility operational compliances where Colonel Mukherjee was telling us few things. I would like to switch over to the other side of the compliance, which is legal and regulatory. basically. And I think that when we are talking about achieving the customer's strategic goals as facility partners, I think legal and stat compliance plays a very, very vital role. So I think, Makarand, I would ask you, what do you think that, how strategic it is and what is the risk associated and your tips?
See, if you look at as these services, FM services, most of the things are people driven. We still maneuvering to a combination of automations, IoT, and all that thing to make it more robust or more effective. But when it's people's comes in as there is a lot of legal optionality as regulatories are comes into the pictures, especially around that. Ultimately, one of the important aspect as a person, it's not that the whatever the regulatory side, which is as an organization as there for your people, which is also there for your outside outsource partners, also the same the regulatory compliances which are there. If we align that such a way that we make all the efforts to make sure that we don't cut the corners, we don't ask them to do anything which is not allowing as per the regulatory side of it, and we don't make it more compliant towards as an individual or as an individual as well as company representative. You make that you need to make them compliant to all the regulatory requirements and make sure that embedded. It gives the immense what do you call output kind of scenario. I'll give a small example, which when I've joined this company, we had certain, I got baggages with me. With that, we interacted with people and we said it, what are the failure part of it? One of the failure part was my service partners, due to various reasons, bills were not getting on time, payments which is there comes into, and that leads to the my last mile payments doing it. We took a challenge and we said we'll make sure that in every person on the ground will get in the first week salary. That was the strategic decision we took. It took us 1.5 years to reach there. So we have to close every bit of it. We process everything digitalized. The bill processing we digitalize, approval process digitalize. Everything is digitalized so that now my service partner knows that when it reaches to the X station, he knows next 48 to 70 hours he's going to get payment. So that kind of a workaround we had to do. Then we had compliances also. Now today, there are so much, thanks to the IT boom and all that, we have so much things around that happening. We have some lot of automation develop around, or the softwares we develop around into GST compliances or their EIC, PFF compliances, which are done online. And there are a lot of service partners. And thanks to this, there are people are working in a niche markets. So especially compliance market, there are people who are working out. Hemant is one of the persons that safety has become the more focus area. Now he is one of the partners to get us there. So these niche market partners, you choose it with your service partner, it works more effective as an organizational, compliant to the law, but at individual levels, as a countryman, you need to make sure that these are been abided and make sure that they have been implemented, because it brings the last ultimate goal. A happy housekeeper will give a good housekeeping output. That's what something.
Thanks, Makarand. I think I would say that regulatory legal compliance, being compliant is the best thing, and you can focus more on other primary outcomes, towards achieving the organization goals where you are. So I think that it is very important to be compliant from that perspective, legal and regulatory. Now, with this, Rakesh, I would like to, we have been speaking about it. I would like to talk about ESG, and quite strategic. When you go to the customers these days, or you are in your own organization, how important ESG initiatives are, to the customers, and what impact they can have, on the customer if you are actually going out and putting a strategy around it to achieve and help them out in this?
Right. I have a small different perspective. Everybody talks about ESG today. There's a separate session also in the second half. We saw a huge slide also on ESG. I was just thinking, if you go back to school days, and everybody must have gone to the management school, and there was a Maslow need, which was a triangle. It was a complete triangle, and you start from this, and you reach to that level. So let's put ESG on a triangle. You have an environment, you have a social, and you have a governance. Governance goes at the top, environment becomes the broader activity, and then comes the social. If you see the environment, it's again one of the words being used by Ashish, it's behavioral change. 40 to 60% change to get an environment is a behavioral change rather than forcefully changed by everybody, whether it's the service provider perspective or the customer perspective. This environment, you talk about any aspect, whether it's a carbon reduction, whether it's fuel, whatsoever, it's the behavioral change. I still remember when automatic cars came into India, people in India were scared that why should we buy an automatic car? Because my fuel consumption will be more. So that was a myth or whatever. Now we are talking about the electric. Okay, there's no fuel, nothing. So it's a complete. So that's why the larger perspective at the bottom spectrum is the environment, which is the change in the behavior. Then comes the social in between. Social is the clients as well as organizational perspective to put that particular into action, whether it's diversification, whether it's any other aspect related to social, that's an organizational goal and dynamics to implement that. And the most important on the top goes is the governance. If you have a governance, then actually it gets implemented and the returns are huge. You have seen a slide and it shows with that governance, there's an investor has gone to a level of that percentage hike in their mindset in terms of returns. So returns to the corporate, returns to the investment is with the help of only governance. So this is these three things which is actually today most important thing in our life of FM leaders.
Yeah, thanks, Rakesh. And you spoke about governance. So governance, I think, is something which plays a vital role whenever you are going ahead and implementing processes or anything, you know, a strategy. If governance is not there around, then you know, it will be very difficult to implement and, of course, difficult to measure. Okay, with this, you see, I am coming to a topic where we were talking about putting money on table, and we were talking about engaging with the CXO level people at the customers end. You know, most of the times, the challenge our industry faces that we are put through to, with all due respect, I want to mention this, you know, we are put through to admin and facility heads, and we are put through to, so I'm sure that they are aware of the strategy, what the customer has, right? But it'll be good, you know, if we also try and engage with the CXOs and get one-on-one audience with them. So my question is to Vikas. Vikas, what do you think can make a difference to a CFO or a CEO at the customer end when we talk about, you know, creating a fit for purpose value proposition for a customer when we talk about achieving their strategic goals?
I'd go back, Jasdeep, to what I was saying earlier as well. I think the strategic FM player can actually be mission critical to business and can help it significantly in its journey overall. So one piece is obviously around attracting and then retaining talent, which they can be a very significant part of. The other piece is actually building brand equity as well. In some senses, you build a level of magnetism with the kind of workplaces that you have. We are right now transitioning into a new office with one purpose being that we want to attract the very best set of people. But I think what you also see is more and more good facility management players, they are turning towards innovation and technology to be able to take costs down as well. So it can actually have a direct impact on the bottom line as well, which I think can be a draw for CXOs overall. And in some senses, you know, if you play the role of partnership, I mean, for us, definitely, the way we think about things, sustainability is very big. We first try to understand what the client or the customer is looking at, and we try to harmonize with them our sustainability goals as well. Uh, we can also be, or an FM player can also be part of the EI agenda, which is becoming bigger and bigger every day right now. So in multiple ways, you know, an FM player can be very helpful in the journey of growth for a company. And I think it can be a force multiplier if you latch on to the right player.
See, one of the important sustainability, which one of the important aspect, which is you're talking about. There are two aspects into that. One, I think Monisha shared was the energy cost, which is one of the important aspect. As the such strategic partners, you which is one of the important role is that reducing the carbon footprint and the consumption of the energy, which becomes more important. Second, one of the important aspect, service partner wise, that as you are into the food supplying, which is one of the important aspect, the wastages around that, how we reduce it. That becomes the more important as a service point of it.
You're talking about the food wastage and all.
Yeah, that's something which is there, which need to be tracked, and that's something goes to the behavioral changes and all that. So I think these are the two important aspects as a service partner. I look for you guys that how you give a back to the my cost going down, which is actually it hits to the bottom line of the company, because this is what has been every penny saved. It goes add to the bottom line of this, and that's where the four pillars of yours is where becomes more important, like energy, which is another biggest cost in anything. Second becomes is the consumables, like food or air, all these things, because these are the employee-driven things, which is more important as an individual for me as things. And that's add value to as my service partner sustainability, major part of it.
Thanks.
Sorry, thanks.
Thanks, Makarand. Yeah, you wanna share something else, Vikas?
I think what crosses my mind as Makarand brought up food wastage also. It's one thing which has become a personal passion of a lot of us in the company, by the way. And we are beginning to more and more measure it digitally, and eventually are aiming to be able to progressively reduce food waste. I think it's a wonderful area that you pointed out too. So I mean, especially in a country where we have hungry millions, you know,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that can be done in this area.
Yeah, I
So
quite
just wanted
agree.
to-
I quite agree. Because, but I think how many of you, and I want you to vote here and raise your hands when I say that, you know, everything, when you are getting into these conversations, you know, customers want everything, but it all boils down to the cost. How many of you agree that finally it is the cost and the money on table from the customer side which makes all the difference? Can you raise your hands? Yeah? Okay, I think that many people are holding back their emotions and not raising the hands, or maybe more customers here. Sorry for that, okay. But you see, what the spinner is that everything boils down to the cost. So how do I convince the customer in partnering, you know, with the supplier side to create a value proposition which is more meaningful? And even if there is money on table, my job is to ensure that I give better returns and I return back more than what customer is investing. So that is what my take on this one is. And thanks for sharing your perspective. You know, of course, we are aligned, right? The last one, in benefit of time, I see that the time's already up. So my last question to my friend Hemant, that, you know, Hemant, HSEQ, very important. And one of the elements in HSEQ is LTIF. I don't know how many of you have heard about it, lost time injury frequency. You know, how is it important to have a good LTIF ratio, one? And what contribution does it have, especially in an environment like production and manufacturing, when you talk about LTIF?
I think it makes a massive contribution. So earlier we spoke about the human aspect and the moral aspect, but from a business aspect, from a brand aspect, I think it doesn't need to be sort of emphasized that the value of human life and the reflection it has on any organization, the morale, the motivation. So how does any organization sort of plan to improve and to deliver that commitment that LTIF would be low industry, better than industry average and sort of world class? We look at it through three lenses, right? So one is from a systemic perspective, what is being done, with an industry sector focus, proportionate health and safety management in terms of systems and processes. For example, for high-rise, buildings, emphasis on working at heights, facade cleaning, all of those kind of aspects. And that's just an example. Manufacturing, of course, has so many more. The second lens is through mindset. And I think eventually what we want is people to own their own safety, and then the world is sort of, it simply gets taken care of. So how can we drive that mindset shift and having actually an approach for it? And third, finally, is sort of from a competency perspective, identifying what are the relevant competencies that are required, and then upskilling people and making sure that all three of these come together to be able to deliver HSEQ and LTIF sort of objectives for any
Yeah,
organization.
I think well-being is very important, and healthy LTIF. I think it's a good measure of your HSEQ, that you keep the lost time injury frequency as low as possible. I think in India, by large, we are at about 0.2%. Many cases are not reported also. So one of the endeavors is to ensure that there are the reporting is correct and near misses are also reported, and we talk more often about all these things in an organization, right? With this, I think I have come to the conclusion. I think we are running out of time. I will not ask questions from the audience. I'm very sorry for that, but during the breaks, you can, when we catch up, you can ask, and we'll definitely, the panel would be happy to answer. When I conclude, I think a few key takeaways, which I would say from this, that, how we enable a business to achieve its goals, and, the organization's strategic goals at the customer end. So I would say that cost optimization, I was noting it down, cost optimization through innovation, right strategies, including the CSR strategies, by the way. We have not spoken about it. That's what I feel. And optimal use of technology, optimal use of technology, something which is user-friendly, easy to do, and just not talking about it, but something which is really meaningful and can be implemented easily. Then maintaining business continuity at all times, in the customer premise, which is very important. That is what we are expected. Ensuring legal and regulatory compliance, 100% at the customer end. Then, as I said, that one important facet which we have not touched upon is what our supply chain strategy is. How can I contribute when by using smart supply chain strategies, better rate cards, better products, green products. So that is one area. Then making the workplace a very safe and secure place. Well-being of my internal customers, my own employees, and the visitors who are visiting the customer premises. So these are my takes on this. With this, I think I conclude the panel discussion. Thanks to all the panelists and to the August gathering we have here. Thank you very much. Pleasure. We'll catch up during the breaks.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Singh, for really weaving together this whole panel discussion. And a big thank you to all our panelists. May I please request you all to join us for a group picture? We would love to capture this moment with all of you all. And a big round of applause for all of them. Like Mr. Singh mentioned, that a little later when we do break for networking, you're all more than welcome to join us. Take these conversations forward, and of course, make sure that you take out a moment and connect with our expert speakers right here. Thank you so very much to each of you for joining us.